He is a recruiter's recruiter. He knows so much. Thank you so much, Don, for joining us today. Kristen is a good friend of mine. Kristen and I have done a ton of work together. Kristen's focus is private equity, and she and I have hired everything from plant manager to head of business to engineering leaders to finance and CFOs. And she's gotten me out of trouble one more than one time, and I have done the same for her. Um, Being a recruiter in this day and age is not easy because those clients want the purple unicorn. And so our job is to help them understand your value proposition. So today we're going to talk about how do you work with recruiters? What do recruiters do? What's it like behind the recruitment curtain? How do you get our attention? What's happening now? How do you stay relevant when you're being doged and the market is how it is and there's AI? We're going to answer all those questions. And Elias, am I saying your name correctly?
Yes, Elias. You got it.
Elias, I think I said it
Yep.
wrong a minute ago, and I'm so sorry about that.
That's okay.
Elias has been on with us before. Like I said, he is the head of talent acquisition for Quantix. Dom and Kristen and Elias, welcome. I would love for you to introduce yourselves. We'll start with Dom and tell us something that's fun about you, that's personal, and what is your biggest pet peeve that you see from candidates? That'll be your introduction.
Well, thanks for having me on, Shelly. My name is Dominic Maiani. I'm president of Lazio Search Group. Recently started Lazio Partners, which is an AI automation game plan that ties into recruiting, which I could talk about later. But about me, 3 kids under 5. I love sports, hockey. A big pet peeve is kind of what Elliot said earlier is when candidates just reach out to me automatically and say, hey, what jobs do you have open for me? Like I love when the candidates reach out to me and follow up because believe me, I have 1,000 people reaching out to me. I have right now 708 missed calls I got to get back to, over 900 text messages. People ask me, Dom, how do you even have that? That's crazy. Well, that's just what it is. That's how many calls we get daily. Um, but yeah, I'm always here to help. Whatever I can do to help you, connect you, plug you in wherever. I know a ton of recruiters in all different industries, verticals, you name it. And if I can plug you in, happy to. But a lot of the stuff that we do as recruiters is sales and marketing, and no different than any position you're going to be in. You're selling yourself, you're selling your idea, you're selling your vision, whatever it may be. Recruiting is similar to every other position, right? And I think we'll talk a lot about that on today's call.
Yeah.
Dominic, I have a question.
And Dom means that. Like, I was a newer agency recruiter. I worked in-house. I didn't know what it was to have contracts. I didn't know what the stuff was. He helped me so much. And when I reached out and hey, like, hey, I need some assistance here. He's like, I want you to do this for me. Nicest. We are out there. I want you to know. Like
Yeah.
we do exist. Kristen, something personal and what's your biggest pet peeve when candidates reach out to you?
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Shelly. I always love doing things like this. I apologize in advance for my voice. I'm not sick, but my voice is. So I don't know what's going on. But Kristen Kenton, I have been in recruiting since 1999, and launched my own firm in 2008. So Kenton Talent Management specializes in transformers, leadership transformation. So people that grow it, fix it, exit, right? And that plays well, as Shelley said, to private equity, owner operated, small through mid market. Personally, I'm a mom. It's my favorite job in the world. I have a son who's 12 and a daughter who is 7. Um, and I am a geek when it comes to the dynamics of human behavior. What makes us tick? Why do people behave the way they do? And it's just fascinating to me. I was lucky to fall into this field when I was just 18 years old, and I love this job. There's like the psychology piece and the behavioral science piece, and there's a sales piece, and there's like a detective piece, research. So anyway, my pet peeve is it's not really a pet peeve because it's more about just wanting to educate and sort of evangelize what recruiters do. Sort of like Dominic said, I think a lot of people assume that a recruiter's job is to help people find a job. And that's actually not true. The way we're paid is that clients pay us to find people. And by the time they're willing to pay a fee, especially a retained search fee like myself, they want somebody that walks on water. They want somebody from their industry and with these certifications. And sometimes they get too focused on the what versus the who. And so I have to educate my clients on I'd rather hire somebody that didn't understand my industry or my software platform, but they understood about how to influence change, how to inspire followership. Those are the hard things to find, right? So I think when candidates call me and say, I'd love to be a resource. I'd love to be a candidate. Of course, I love meeting talented people and I place people cross-functionally at the director level and above. And I'll always remember pearls, people pearls, right? People that are highly emotionally intelligent, that are willing to give as much as they get, that understand that my job isn't to help them find a job. I'd love to be able to influence and help. That's true. But my job is to find my clients these people that they've asked me to find. So the chances of us having the perfect opportunity at the time that you're open for that opportunity is very slim. So it's about how do we help each other until that role crosses my desk, and then you'll be my first call, right? So I think understanding the role of a recruiter, what motivates them, it's like any sales and marketing initiative. You have to understand your potential customer, how they make money, how they develop leads, who are their referral partners, where do they hang out, what do they want, when should you think of them, and asking those questions so that you arm yourself to help them so that they'll even be more motivated, to help you. So anyway, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Kristen. Elias.
Thanks. Yeah, as Shelley said, I'm the director of recruiting at Quantix, IT staffing company. I've been in the agency staffing world for over 20 years. I'll just leave it at that. um, live in Colorado. Have a couple of dogs. Love dogs. Love the Nuggets and the Avalanche. So big sports fan. Um, I wouldn't say I have a pet peeve about candidates, but the thing similar to what Kristen said, I think what a lot of candidates, what I see, so many people apply for jobs that they aren't qualified for. I'll post a job with 3 required skills and I'll get hundreds of applicants who don't even have one of the 3. And I think a lot of people, at least what I see on LinkedIn and hear people talk about, is they don't understand why they don't hear back on all these applications. And I think candidates need to understand they either don't have all the skills that they think they do, right? Or their resume is not portraying it properly. And I think a lot of people look at their resume, they know what they mean, but they aren't really reading it through someone else who doesn't know what they mean's eyes. And so that's a big thing I think candidates need to understand is like, look at the job description and how do you match it with your resume without any assumptions being made? So
Awesome.
not really a pet peeve, more of a commentary.
Awesome. Okay. Dom, we're going to start with you on this one. We've had 2 of my writers on LinkedIn and resumes here. We talked some about AI. So how do I stand out when AI is screening out everything in the ATS? And is it safe to use AI to apply for jobs?
Loaded question. Yeah. So what I would say here is everybody's using it, right? So I can see for some of my clients on the inside of, with ISOMs, Workday, you name it, I see on the other side what comes through. Everybody's tailoring the resume to fit the job description. We get that, right? So how do you stand out inside of that? And I think Shelley said it earlier when I jumped on the call. It's reaching out directly to the hiring managers, finding that connection. What value can you bring to the table? Because everybody's doing the same thing, and I don't even think people are even looking at the resumes anymore. They will when they get deep into the the conversation. Like, what did you do here? What were your sales numbers? Quota? Did you hit quota? Did you attain? All that kind of stuff. Go deep into the conversation. But in this market right now, everybody's using AI. Well, a lot of people are to tailor a resume to fit the job description. Is it safe to apply to jobs? you got to be, I would go directly to the company's website. Even nowadays, there's a lot of fake job postings. Think about this too. You see a job get posted on LinkedIn. Within an hour, there's 100 applicants. And sometimes you see them reposted a week later. Um, a lot of these companies got locked into these job slots with LinkedIn for a 5-year term. So they're hurting their own reputation by posting these jobs. And people apply. That you could be a rock star for that role, and you're automatically getting the corporate rejection letter. I hear that happen all the time. I had one of my clients tell me CEO told one of his buddies to apply for this position, and he was basically referred in from the CEO. He applies, he gets a corporate rejection letter within 5 minutes. So, yeah, it's is it safe? Yes, but you got to depends on where you're using it. Go apply directly to the website if you're going to apply.
Awesome. We have a couple questions coming in as well. What percent do you think is the technical ability you have to solve the problem, or if it, um, Jeff, I'm not sure I understand your question. Can you write some more in there for us? Elias, why don't you take
Like public.
the AI question next?
Sure. I mean, I wouldn't probably use AI to blast out applications like a lot of people do. If we're because safe to use AI to apply, there's a lot of different ways that can be used. So the mass applications, I'm not sure I would do that because you're not getting your best foot forward in the jobs that you're really well qualified for. Using it to write your resume or to tweak your resume, I think it's okay, but I would go in and make sure you edit it with your own your own words. Because if it looks too heavily just AI written, it's going to look like every other resume. And I'm seeing more than a few people who say if it's obvious a resume was written by AI, we're just rejecting you, which is nonsense in my opinion. However, it's what's there, right? And whether something's right or wrong is irrelevant. If it's happening, you have to figure out how to navigate it. So if you're going to use AI to write your resume, fine, go in and make some changes to it. Now, as far as the how do you stand out? I mean, AI is not screening everything yet, but there are a lot of companies using it. Um, the unfortunate part of that, I think, is what Dominic said. It's looking at everything the same. Everybody's using the same tools. And then AI is trained differently for every company, every tool that's implemented. So there's no one way to make your resume stand out for any particular AI tool in any particular company. It's been trained differently. It's been given different sets of data. It's been configured differently. You can't beat the AI, so to speak. So how do you stand out? And I think that's where some of these things come in, where you have to network, you have to try to meet people there, you have to try to get in with a hiring manager, get in with a recruiter, do what you have to do in that regard, because your resume is you don't know how to quote unquote beat AI anymore. It's not really a thing. I think there are enough companies still screening resumes manually that the thing most people don't do when they tweak a resume, you have to consider your titles. Recruiters inherently scan a resume when they first see it. You skim over the titles, companies, and dates of employment really quickly. If those don't grab that person's attention, your resume, nobody reads what you've tweaked. Nobody reads all your details and accomplishments and everything else. And hiring managers do this too, by the way. It's not just recruiters. Everybody, you put a resume in front of them, that's what they look at. So you really need to make sure your titles are grabbing people's attention as they apply to the jobs you're applying to. That's why I don't like the mass application. You plug one resume in and you blast it out. You don't know where it's going, and you don't know that it's been optimized, so to speak, for those job descriptions.
Awesome. Okay. Kristen, we're going to start with you on the next question. What does a modern resume look like in 2025? And we had Lisa and Lizelle here, but from your perspective as a top corporate functions recruiter, what do you believe a modern resume looks like?
Yeah, and actually, I could probably pull up a sample, but I think, first of all, people spend too much time worrying about their resume. So it's like, do it once, do it right. And then unless somebody that, that can is willing and able to hire you tells you to change it, don't change it. I think sometimes we trick ourselves into thinking we're working on our job search by changing words or formatting on our resume. And honestly, the resume is not that helpful. The comment I was going to make on the last question is the only way to beat AI is with humanity. And Elias basically said the same thing. It's like, don't overly rely on applications, right? Make sure if you're actually qualified for the job per the requirements that you're reaching out to the decision maker. There's a lot of use AI to figure out who the people are and then call those people or email those people or get a warm introduction to those people. That's a step most people don't take. It's the human element that makes you stand out, right? So the resume in my mind should follow basic rules. I don't think a resume should go beyond 2 pages. Now, everybody has an opinion on this, right? But here's mine. I don't think a resume should go beyond 2 pages. It's difficult, especially if you're an experienced person. So what you do is you say previous experience at the bottom, and you capture, if you want to list titles, I mean dates, you can, but you capture, okay, I had training at GE. I was, in their management training program. Then I was promoted. You just put titles and companies under previous experience. It doesn't mean you have to drop all of that valuable experience off. It means it just deserves less space, right? So group it. Make sure there's a professional summary at the top. Objectives died in the 80s. So the professional summary is your elevator speech. It's how do you categorize yourself? I am an operationally oriented finance leader. The rule of three. You have 3 industries. I'm in fintech, software, and manufacturing. It's how do you categorize yourself as if you were going to build a filter. It's a unemotional kind of categorization sentence. The next sentence is your value prop, which is your superpower. What do you do best in the world as compared to others in that category? And that's one sentence you may tweak depending on the job, but usually it's like I had a candidate say, I have the ability to telescope and microscope in order to operationalize strategy, or I understand how to combine people, processes, and systems to deliver EBITDA results or shareholder value. It's some kind of like, what are you really good at? I understand complex strategy and vision, and I know how to pare that down into an actionable plan. I know how to get people to rally around the mission and vision and the goal, right? So it's how do you categorize yourself? What's your value proposition or your superpower? And then I would have bullets. Like most people have a paragraph that's a summary that's like 9, 10 sentences. It's not going to get read. I would have bullets, 3 columns of bullets. I'll share a sample here in a minute, but M&A, systems implementation, you know, servant leadership, all the things that you were going to say in that really long paragraph, bullet them, right? And then the rest of the resume is a very clear company, position, dates, and then impactful, actionable responsibilities and impacts, right? 3 to 5 bullets. We don't need 25 bullets we can condense those. And it's in chronological order, right? I mean, a lot of recruiters, I understand the purpose of a functional resume. You're trying to sort of distract maybe away from, I want to just group all of these consulting things into one, or I want to group my industries. But a chronological resume, most current at the top, I think is important. Then you have education, right? References also died. References available upon request. It's a waste of a thing to say. Everybody knows, that, right? So I just be really efficient with your verbiage and very clean. Don't go beyond 2 pages. Stay to 3 to 5 bullets and group previous experience. But the summary is key because to Dominic's point, the average resume, I think it's 6 seconds of review. Where do you live? Are you a commute or a reload problem is what they're looking for. So you don't have to list where you live. How do you categorize yourself? They'll scan your summary, your professional summary and or your bullets. And are you a job jumper, right? So they're looking for dates. And is it a 2-year itch, 2-year itch, 2-year itch? That's going to hurt you, right? And so maybe there's a way to even sort of position that differently. I'm happy to accept calls on that, but I'll share as others are answering what I view as kind of the ideal resume template.
Awesome. Dom, I'm going to jump to you since we only have you for another 10 minutes. I'd love to get your insight on the modern resume that you see in SaaS or SCM supply chain. And then I'd love to get your opinion on the hidden job market now that internal mobility, meaning internal hires and referrals, dominate.
I do have more time. My wife's gonna go grab the kids,
Oh,
so
you
we're
do?
good. Yeah,
Okay. Okay, cool.
we're good there.
Thank you to your wife.
Yes. What was the first question again? Just she
Your
was telling.
insight on the modern resume that you look for within your verticals.
For me, I do a lot of salespeople. So what I want to see is your quota, your attainment, your numbers, bullet points right at the front. We already know enterprise account executive. I already know what you do, right? If you're selling into TMS, WMS, supply chain visibility, whatever we know, put your numbers, your quota, and then we're going to dig into those deeper on the next call. But just like Kristen said, short, sweet, to the point. You don't need all the fluff in there. Nobody's, and I think the data behind it was the average recruiter spends less than 2 seconds on a resume. So it went from 6 to 2. So especially with AI now,
Wow.
they're scanning it quick and they're just looking through it. Boom. Are they a job hopper? No. And here's another thing I see, and this I'm still trying to figure out if this is hurting people or helping. But let's say you were at one company for 10 years and you progressed through that company and you had 3 different jobs, 4 different jobs, and you're putting the dates on the other side. Like you have the title over here on the left, then you have the dates on the right. But when that goes through some of these ATS systems, it's scanning through like you jump, jump, jump. And some of the recruiters don't look at that right away. Think about
Yeah.
an entry level recruiter at 60 to 80K. They're not looking at that. Like I'm looking at, okay, they progressed through the career, good work history. This is exactly what I'm looking for. Where some systems it might show up weird on the other side. Like I wish I could show you some internal from like Workday and ISOMs and Ceridian Dayforce, what it looks like on that side, is it comes through weird. I tested it with a really good candidate to see what it looked like on the other side. What does the client see? And it came through awful. And I was like, wow, that's not good. But yeah, what Kristen said is spot on. For me, on sales candidates specifically, bullet points, quota attainment. The rest we'll dig into.
Yeah, can I jump in real quick on this? I just want to reiterate something.
Please.
The I agree with Dominic entirely. The dates, if you've had different jobs within one company, just put the overriding date,
Yeah.
the date, that you were at the whole company, and then you can break
Yes.
out the titles below, but don't put dates there. Because and I've even seen hiring managers miss it, right? Oh, this person's jumped around a lot. I'm like, what do you mean? They had 7 jobs in 12 years at that one company. They got promoted. They're not a job hopper, but the manager missed it. And the problem is once that you get a negative impression in your mind about a candidate, it's hard to overcome that. So yeah, don't do that. And I think the 2 second thing, I haven't seen any particular stats on that, but that doesn't surprise me. And that reinforces even more, one of my biggest things is your titles have to line up. Don't put these confusing titles that you have at your internal, your title is software systems analyst 4. That doesn't mean anything anywhere else. So if you were really a project manager, call yourself a project manager. You can put your real title in parentheses if you are squeamish about leaving it off. But when you're putting these, I see all these weird titles that are meaningless outside of the company where they are. You are getting skipped. You're getting skipped because there's other people whose titles do mean something and are easy to scan in that 2 to 6 seconds, like Dominic said. If any recruiter reads a resume and they can't quickly figure out what you were doing, they're going to move on to the resumes where they can quickly figure out what you were doing. I think people don't realize we're all trying to get resumes in front of a manager, right? Managers only want 5 to 7 good candidates at a time. So if I've got 400 to look at, I'm going to take the path of least resistance to get that 5 to 7 good candidates. So you have to make sure your resume clearly explains what you did, what you accomplished in a quick and don't make the recruiters or managers think too much about it. Like I need to understand what you did really, really quickly because otherwise there's going to be another resume that does.
Yeah. Can I say something here real quick too? Because I've had 2 calls today specifically about this. Really good candidates that have never had to look for a job in their entire life, and their ego is just they're like, Dom,
Yeah.
am I not good enough? No, you're good enough. It's just finding the right company with the right at the right time that needs your skill set. But these are people that the one guy has had one job his entire life, 25 years at one company. And he's like, am I not good enough? And I go, no, you are. It's just timing, right? And some people, some companies might automatically assume you're too expensive for them. So sometimes, like you said, Elias, the titles matter.
A lot matters with this, Don and Kristen and Elias. We talked a lot about ego and how thoughts get in the way and limiting beliefs and ageism and AI and all these different pieces. So what I've heard so far is apply to the company website. Don't blast your resume through lazy apply, easy apply, or through AI. Consider your titles. Elias just gave a great example of system admin for. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean in the market? It might mean something to you, but again, what we talked about in strategy, it's not about you. It's about you marketing yourself to us so that you answer our questions as recruiters of how you align with what we're looking for. Um, Grab our attention as recruiters. Do not mass apply. I loved what Kristen said about beat AI through humanity. Get to know the person, nurture relationships, reach out to the decision makers, actually make a phone call, leave a voice memo. That's something I didn't go over, but part of strategy is getting phone numbers, and there are ways to do that. Good managers only want to see 5 to 7 people, but we as recruiters have thousands. We screen you out. We're screening you out. You have got to be center of target. Um, don't make decision makers wonder about why you are the best. You have to clearly be the best. All right. So that's what I've heard. I hope that you have heard tons of other takeaways. We're going to move on to the question, the hidden job market. Now, those Facebook and Instagram companies, the coaches that are out there, like the Human Reach or MoFal or et cetera, they all have these frameworks for the hidden job market or the side door or when at work is how do you focus on this? So I really wanted to take this question from behind the recruitment curtain on Elias. Let's start with you on this one. Now that internal mobility, I mean, people are moving back and forth. Um, how do people in transition find the hidden job market? What are your thoughts on the hidden job market? I'll just let you take the floor.
Yeah, well, I think some of the hidden job market, stats that are out there, some of that's
Mhm.
been created by people who then have a hidden job market solution to sell you.
Mhm.
Um, because, I mean, the stat that's commonly referenced is 80% of jobs are in the hidden job market, which is nonsense on the face of it. Because if you think about that, then the jobs that are out, there's only 20% of the open jobs. So there's that many more open jobs. There shouldn't be any unemployment if that's really true, right? So it's not true. Are there jobs that are filled by internal referrals immediately and they always have somebody in mind? Sure, that happens. But I've seen so many recruiters online say they still are filling 50 to 60% of their jobs with external either applicants or people they source. They're not all being filled internally. However, it does happen, right? And internal referrals are always given, at least they should be given some preferential treatment. So that goes back
Mhm.
to networking. You can't, your network is only going to be what it is, right? When you go on the market, you know the people you know. You're going to exhaust that pretty quickly. So how do you access the larger quote unquote hidden job market? It's by getting to know more people in the job world, right? Network into these companies, companies where you'd like to work, companies that have good reputations, companies that you see are posting jobs in your field. Find people in your job field. Connect with the recruiters if possible. Connect with the people to whom you'd report at those companies. Not everyone will reply to you, right? But you got to keep trying and keep trying to network with as many people as you can. That's how you access a quote unquote hidden job is if somebody there can say, "Hey, we got a job coming up. You'd be perfect for this." That's how you're going to access that. There's not, there's very few, in my opinion, recruiters who are like me on the outside who can legitimately say to people, "I have access to all these hidden jobs. And if you just pay me $5,000, I can
Mhm.
get you into all of them." How? We know of the people we know. We don't know everybody. You can't you can't get into the entire hidden job market. It's all about getting to know people in these companies, in my opinion.
Networking, getting to nurture those relationships. Kristen, how about you on this one?
Yeah. So there's an art and a science to career transition that sadly most of us are never told. We're not taught. It's a skill that probably every single one of us will use, and we don't know the secret sauce, right? So I think there's just basically three steps. You've got self-reflection. And that's important because you can't be all things to all people. In fact, counterintuitively, you need to pigeonhole yourself. You need to be remembered for something. And that's where the elevator speech comes in. What do I really want? What am I at best in the world at? What don't I want? I'm not going to, I'm not going to do that. I have boundaries around, right? I'm not going to join a culture that embraces XYZ. So self-reflection. It's basically creating your resume, your resume, your LinkedIn, I use something called a one-page self-marketing bio, which is like a condensed version of your resume, and then the bottom half is what's next, like transformative CEO seeking software fintech, organization backed by private equity, looking to grow through M&A, something like that. But anyway, and then there's sample companies. Like these are the kinds of companies I'm looking for. You should know your market. Don't leave it. I can't believe sometimes what people will say, well, I'm open to large or small, public or private, any industry because my skills are transferable. We know the skills are transferable. The problem is convincing a CEO of that his business is not, or her business is not the most unique business in the whole world, and it will require somebody with, a very deep Rolodex in their specific market. So I'd go where you have the most success stories. Anyway, I get a little off track here, but your self-marketing materials need to reflect your self-reflection, like a specific thing, a unique thing that's going to add specific value. Don't be all things to all people. And then the last step is go to market. And that's the most important step. And that's where most people struggle. And it's about intentional, give-minded networking. It's about Socratic questioning that arms you with information to help the people that can help you. So there's two kinds of people you need to be meeting when you're in transition. Employers that are willing and able to hire you, and then the advisors of the executives or board within that company. So think about advisors. They're vendors. The first place a CEO goes when they're looking for a CFO, a head of sales, whatever it is their banker, their attorney, their executive coach, their real estate broker, right? They're already their trusted advisors. Recruiting in HR is the last place you go. I couldn't do this on my own. Now that's hidden. Now it's public. Does that make sense? You need to get there while it's quote hidden. It's not really hidden. It's just they haven't announced it yet, right? And so if you meet the people that specialize in what you do, like there's vendors that specialize in, like if you are looking for just sub 50 million owner operated or private equity backed software, there's vendors that specialize specifically in that space. It's easier to get a meeting with a vendor because they hope you'll be a client when you land than it is to get a meeting with a private equity firm or a CEO. And then that vendor can introduce you to all their clients if you impress them. But you've got to ask them questions like, I really want to understand your business, how I can help you, when I should be thinking of you. Give me your customer avatar. Describe like your ideal customer. Where did your last three customers come from? What are your best referral sources? Why do you do what you do and how do you do it differently? Your job is to arm yourself with as much information and then help them. How do you help? There's three ways. I call them so it's invitations, but it has to be invitations to things they want to attend, right? And that not everybody can attend. Introductions. And again, it has to be introductions to people they want to meet, their referral partners, prospective clients, people that could even help them personally, especially if you can help them personally. So invitations, introductions, and information. So I have Google alerts set up, right? Like people on the move, mergers and acquisitions, Denver economy disruption, different things so that I can share information with the people that have requested certain categories of information to stay front of mind. So anyway, those are the three steps. And if you do that well and you do it right, you'll never have to look for a job again. If you continue to nurture those relationships with your champions, with the people that get it, you'll always be sought out proactively, whether you're employed or unemployed. So,
Dom.
Be all the above what they all just said. And don't stop networking when you get another job. I see a lot of people stop that, and it's do not stop. Another thing too, and I want to bring this up because people have asked me in the last couple of days. Well, Dom, how do I? You guys have access to all these tools to get their contact information. How do I get their contact information? Well,
Mhm.
if you go to the Chrome web store, there's some. If you go to the Chrome, say email finder in the Chrome web store, you can use a lot of these tools that are free that will give you 5 or 10 emails or phone numbers. So try that if you don't want to go pay for a tool. But there's some tools that I use that are these are tools and skills that if you can learn like Clay or N8N if you're in sales or marketing, that is next level. That is something that everyone's going to be looking for in the coming years. They don't even
Dominic,
know
what
they
were
need
those
it yet.
again? Clay and what?
N8N. Here, I'll put it in the chat.
Nen?
N8 is in
N8N
.io.
.io.
So
Okay.
this is where I can go and automate pretty much anything at any company. But for tools,
Clay,
what I use here,
NATO, Signal Hire.
can I
What
share my
else?
screen real quick?
Yeah, of course.
Should be able to.
Go ahead.
So here's an example for one of my clients, right? They wanted me to target everybody in the food and bev space. So we'll bring in all the food and bev clients. We'll, based on the size, then we'll qualify the companies even further and bring in our AI to analyze the company. Do they fit the ICP, ideal client profile for that company? If they're a fit, yes, then match them to a vertical. Then we'll send them to qualify even further here. And you can do all this into one. This is waterfall enrichment. So once I have them qualified, they're tagged to the vertical, then I'll go and now I'll start to find the people from the companies that we want to reach out to and then tag them to a persona, which you'll see over here. And if we're searching for the location, the job title, and then we're tagging them to the persona, and that's how we're going to reach out to them. Now we'll enrich their contact data and verify it, all from this tool. So if there was one tool I would tell you to learn real quick, this is an amazing tool. Clay, I'm going
Clay.
here. Anybody on automotive, I want to target automotive. Like these are pretty complex tables I'm showing you, but if you just start to dive in real quick, you can learn this within a couple weeks.
does this give you email information or contact information, Dominic?
Everything. I
That's
can get
awesome.
everything on the company in a second. And then right from here, I can launch multi-channel outreach via email campaigns, Dripify. So on LinkedIn here, like here's the one I was going to a conference. And so I scraped all the people that were speakers at the conference. The 259 lead people that were speaking, high level people, I reached out to all of them on LinkedIn, 107 accepted, 92 responded. Out of the 92 that responded, I knew I had 3 days at the conference. I filtered through the 92. Who do I really want to meet with? I have 3 days here at the event. Boom, boom, boom. I scheduled 25 meetings. And that sequence was going all automatically right here while I was going about my day, having my normal conversations, doing what I do all day.
Yeah, this is how to use technology without removing the human element, right? Like you then
Correct.
contacted these people in person or you knew things about them to reference and yeah, and that's so super
Yeah.
smart. If you don't have access to tools like this or databases or don't want to pay for something, or maybe just not as technically proficient, you can usually guess an email address, right? The email address is the domain name. It's like website.com. If you know the company's domain name, it's usually first dot last or first letter last name. And you can then do an email verifier, right? To see if that is active or real or whatever. So you can find emails pretty easily if you know the company's website. And most of their executive bios are on the website too. If you want to know who the CEO or CHRO is of the company you're targeting, it's probably on their website. Dominic's way is faster and you can do more, but like you could also do this individually with just some sleuthing.
Yeah. Like this is what I was showing you is pretty complex. Like that's that go to market sales ops,
Yeah.
engineering, like next level AI stuff coming in and bringing in APIs to analyze the profile, tracking pixels on when somebody visits the website. Do they fit the ICP? Yes. Alert the sales team in the Slack channel. Like but these are tools that using that when
Mhm.
I show the sales teams, these sales leaders have no idea what I'm talking about. They're like, well,
Yeah.
we don't even know that. The
They should be
CTOs don't
hiring you
even
for
know.
sales consulting in addition to recruiting.
Well, that's why we started Lazio Partners, because
Uh,
that's the whole
that was
nother
a softball
division.
for you.
Yeah, but
What Don
yeah,
just
it's
showed you is absolute gold. If there's anything that you, this is how recruiters find you. But the AI and Dripify and your go-to market strategy has to leverage technology. When I first got to know Dom, he had someone in a what was called the Relevant Recruiter program with me, with Don and Gupton, and we were learning how to leverage LinkedIn and Loom. And you heard Lizelle talk about Loom videos, right? All of these things are go-to market strategies that Dominic is using to make himself a top 5% SCM recruiter, right? Elias,
right.
if we were to really look at what you're doing from the IT or program management perspective, what else can you share on technology?
Well, I'm a little different because I'm in the agency world, and we're filling a lot of contract positions. The one thing that I think is also important with the way um, everything's going. I've seen, and I do this myself, recruiters not posting jobs because there are too many applicants, and they're really wanting to just go source the candidates on their own. This is not even if you get internal referrals, right? That's separate. But just saying, I can go find people who are qualified for this job much faster than I can so weed through five, six, 700 applicants. So I think there's also that aspect of job seeking. Like I love the Clay and the N8N, like figuring out how you could put this stuff together to do outreach as a candidate is a great idea, right? You can reach out to all these different people at companies you want to work for. That's a great way to try to get in front of these people. But if you're just also trying to like fish, right? Like create a LinkedIn profile, create a resume that you're posting, you really, again, need to figure out how to make people want to reach out to you. Because I do believe there's a lot of recruiters who are just saying, I can go source five people, in an hour. It's going to take me so much longer than that if I post this job. So I'm not going to post it. Why would I post? I don't have to post it. There's no law that says every job has to be posted. So I'm just going to go source on this. And I do that all the time. If I have contract roles, especially contract roles that I know are going to fill quickly, which there's lots of agencies like us, right? Our contract positions, the submittal slots will be filled in 24 hours. That's all you have. I can't post that job because if I do, it'll take, I won't even get a chance to submit anyone. All of my competition will have filled up all the slots for the hiring manager before I even get to it. So I have to go find people for these jobs. And I know because I talk to candidates, my competition is doing the same thing. So in that regard, the technology, the things that you have to really think about is leveraging it's going to be LinkedIn and Indeed are the two most likely places people go to look for you, making sure those things are optimized to be found for the jobs you're qualified for. And I think one of the things Kristen said resonated. This day and age, with the way the candidate pool is, industry is super important. Companies want people from the industries they're in. And as long as I've been a recruiter, that's always been a plus, right? It's never a requirement. Sometimes, rarely a requirement. Usually it's in the preferred skills. So what happens when a recruiter is looking at a pile of resumes or doing sourcing and I think, there's probably a lot of candidates on the market. I'm going to start out with the people who are in this industry.
Mhm.
So that's how I would target my search if I were, looking for jobs. I would use something like what Dominic was doing. I would find the companies in my industry or the last couple industries I was in, so I can, accurately say I have industry experience, and then go after those sort of networking opportunities and the open jobs there, and then also make sure on my LinkedIn and my Indeed, it's clear what industries I am in and have expertise in. You know what your company does, and we all know what Bank of America does, but XY's like my Quantix, nobody knows what the hell Quantix does. Nobody's heard of us, right? We're a small staffing company. If I'm on the market, I'm going to make darn sure that my LinkedIn indicates that Quantix is an IT staffing firm. So that if somebody's looking for someone with that industry experience, it's obvious to them. It goes back to what I was saying. Don't make people think too hard, right? Like you have to make it clear how you fit their need. And industry is big. And what Dominic just showed, you can use those types of tools to find a ton of companies in the industries you're in, and then really make your networking that much more effective.
Man, I can't stop writing. So much gold here. Thank you so much. Our next question that I get a lot is candidates today are navigating hiring freezes, delays, layoffs, government shutdowns, impacts, consumer spending. How do you navigate that in this type of market? Kristen, let's start with you on this one.
Oh, I knew you were going to do that. And I was just responding to somebody on chat. So I missed the last part. I'm so sorry, Shelley. Can you repeat the question?
Totally. There's a lot happening in the marketplace right now. Government shutdowns, layoffs, hiring frosts, hiring freezes, etc. How can candidates best navigate this market and still stay relevant and get your attention as a recruiter?
Yeah.
Something iterative of that.
Yeah. So the reality is, I think all of us, when we were talking about when we were prepping, we all groaned, right, with this question. I had a new client where we're just about at offer and the government shut down, put the search on hold. Okay. There's nothing I can do. Can I try to counsel my client and say, you're still going to need this position. The government's not going to be frozen forever. Like counterintuitively, scrappy companies with a lot of cash should be taking advantage of this opportunity. You don't want to put this on hold. I can try. There's nothing we can do about hiring freezes and government shutdowns and positions going on hold. None of it. So no sense complaining about it. Now it's how do I broaden the net? How do I make sure that I'm visible to companies that are committed to hiring? And that all comes down to networking. It's about branding yourself. LinkedIn should be your best friend. If you have a free version of LinkedIn, I think that's the best investment you can make. Just pay for the next level. What is it? Premium?
Premium.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's not that expensive. It'll give you more functionality. In fact, I don't even use LinkedIn Recruiter. It's a very expensive tool. I know that's probably shocking to a lot of people, but I find that Recruiter Lite, I can do 80% of the functionality. Maybe it's a little more laborious, but you want to be able to create filters, and LinkedIn is a great tool for, I'm looking for companies in the South Denver area that's in this industry, right? You find those companies. Now you do a people search. I'm looking for the CEO, CHRO, and maybe a board member of those companies, right? And then I start finding their contact information through various means, right? Even just finding their headquarters phone number, right? Now you're going to get screened out if you're cold calling a CEO, but I really think that standing out by using the human element, like I would guess, I'm making this statistic up, that like 90% of candidates don't do anything except fill out an application. So a way to stand out would even be, even if the call wasn't returned, to just leave a voicemail, right? And that could sound like, hi, CEO X. I know this is unorthodox, but I've researched your organization. I'm impressed with where you're going. There's synergies with our backgrounds. I'm also a leader in this space. I helped XYZ company go through an IPO or some impact statement. I would embrace the opportunity to just have 10 minutes of your time. Or I would be grateful for an introduction to your head of HR or whoever's handling your search for whatever. I mean, even if it works 20% of the time and that's great. All of a sudden you've moved to the top of the pile. So I think it's about becoming more creative in your networking and opening it up and just moving on. When the job's frozen, the government shut down, nothing we can do. We're now going to take our power into our own hands and we're going to expand our filter and we're going to be memorable.
I want to add something because I really like what you said there, Kristen. I mean, I agree. You got to control what you can control. Like don't worry about everything else because it's going to stress you out and drive you crazy. But I think it's higher than 90% that just fill out an application. Like when I do post a job, and I do still post jobs, I would guess, I don't know, less than 1% of people will reach out to me directly.
Mm-hmm.
And my email address is on my LinkedIn profile. Like I'm not hard to find. I'll get a handful of LinkedIn in-mails right? Like I just posted a job. I've got 300 or 400 applicants. I think I got 5 in-mails and 0 candidate emails in my inbox. 0. I've done this with sales jobs before. You know how many salespeople email me directly? 0. And I'm like, you're salespeople. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? So if you can find the recruiter who posted the job, their email address, or the hiring manager, you don't have to shoot all the way to CEO. But if you can find like these people who are in charge of this job, you can use the tools that Dominic mentioned. I've even tested out just ChatGPT. What's the email convention for XYZ Corp? And I have a client who uses a first name underscore last name, so kind of a weird one. It nailed it, right? And it
Wow.
it usually gives a few options like this is used 80% of the time, this is used 12% of the time. So you can test them out. Really easy to find email addresses. Send an email to those people,
Mhm.
recruiter, hiring manager, whoever. Send your resume and then a couple little blurbs about why you're actually a really good fit for the job. Just a couple sentences. And then another sentence or two that says why you're excited about the company. Show that you looked them up. I see that you just released this product. I see you're merging with these guys or divesting of this or whatever it is. Say something because it shows you did more research than the 99.9% of applicants who don't do anything at all. And think about it from here's the question I get a lot. Well, aren't I going to be bothering that recruiter? Won't it annoy them? No, it won't. We get emails all day. The worst case scenario is the recruiter might email you back and say, we have a process. Please just apply. Don't reach out directly. And then you reply and say, thank you for your response. I have applied. I look forward to hearing back from you. The chances of you being rejected for doing that are virtually 0.
Yeah.
And again, go back to what I was saying. We recruiters are trying to find 5 to 7 really good people really fast. If you're legitimately really good in the industry, in the location, hit this, you just saved me a lot of time.
Mhm.
You just put your resume in front of me and your little bullet points. Now I can go, man, I got one of my 5 right here. And I can schedule a phone call instead of paging through all these resumes. So it's that extra little step to stand out, to make a connection, whatever it is. And I'm just not just saying this. I've run executive networking groups, job seekers, and people have done it and exponentially higher response rates. I mean, they went from like 1% to 12%. 12% is not great, but compared to 1%, it's a lot better. So it absolutely works if you do it. Most people don't. The vast majority of people don't.
I hope that all of you have red flags and like sirens going off right now that lazy apply does not work. We talked 45 minutes ago about you've got to be different, what Elias and Kristen just said. Like, you have to hear things 13 to 17 times for it to stick. Like, if there's one thing that sticks, I hope you will do the extra mile to get yourself in front of folks. Um, I just hope that you heard that for sure. Dom, any thoughts on any of these topics that are resonating for you right now?
Yeah, find a recruiter that specializes in that is a market master in
Niche.
that niche that you're looking at, right? Because for me, if you reach out to me and you're an enterprise account executive in WMS SaaS, right? Well, maybe my clients don't have a role right now, but if you're a rock star, I'm going to go to them and say, look, I got this person ready to go. Here you go. And every CEO I work with is always looking to upscale their team. If somebody's better comes on the market, hey, that person at the bottom might be chopped off, unfortunately. That's just the way it is, especially
Hmm.
in the space I play in.
Hmm.
Somebody's getting cut, so you're either going to be a top performer or you're going to be gone. That's the unfortunate part. But for some people, it's tough. But um, find somebody that specializes in what you're looking for and reach out to them. On top of what you're doing about your day to day, finding a job in this market is a full time job, no doubt, and you have to
Hmm.
treat it like that. Network as much as you can. Get on as many meetings. Like I'm still on an executive. Like today, I had an executive roundtable for 85 logistics executives. Still networking in those groups. I do that every 5 weeks. But even the people that are in that group that were in transition that now found a job, guess what? They're still in those calls networking. So Don't stop ever.
Okay, we have about 8 minutes. If there was one piece of advice that you would give job seekers right now in order to fast track or be more relevant or change or pivot their search, what would it be? Kristen.
I'd say if you look at the three steps of career transition, do the most impactful and powerful thing within the three. Self-reflect and stop going after roles that are like second, third choice. I have candidates say, "Oh, I'd be open to relo. I really don't want to." Then don't go there yet. Like make sure you research. So anyway, number one, self-reflect, figure out who you are. Number two, self-marketing. And I would also really suggest that you do a one-page self-marketing bio. I'll share a template, but where you list your ideal role and then some sample companies. Do the research for them. If you want a company that's between this revenue and these two industries that's growing and recognized for various things, do the research and make sure you're listing some of those companies. I'll share the template of this one pager that I really like. Share that with every vendor, connector, and influencer that you meet. And then number three, going to market, make sure that you are articulating your elevator speech. Elevator speeches are real pretty, but they're useless if they're never used. And I'll be coaching people and telling them, we will come up with this amazing elevator speech. And then I hear them at a networking event not using their elevator speech. Why? And make sure list 3 to 5 questions that you should ask an influencer or a vendor that will prepare you, that will arm you to help them so that you will become more front of mind and they will want to help you, right? So think about the 3 steps and do the most impactful thing within each of those 3 steps.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Dom, how about you?
Continue networking and upskill with the AI. There was a good podcast with Jensen and Joe Rogan yesterday. What Jensen said about AI, learning to how do you 5-10x yourself,
Mm.
no matter what you do. You need to learn how to do that quickly because I don't think a lot of people realize where AI is heading. And you know, you see the studies like 95% of companies that implemented AI, MIT study, well, they failed. Well, I'll show you companies that are implementing it right and they're just dominating. So it's where does the human in the loop come in? What skills do you have? How do you upskill yourself? Where do you make yourself 10, 20x, more relevant in today's market? Because those teams of, let's say, a 2030 marketing team in 2030 is getting cut down to 2 to 3 that know how to use these tools. And that's the reality of the market we're about to enter.
Elias.
Sorry, I had to get to the unmute button there. If I had to give, one piece of advice for, applying and really trying to line up your resume and profile, do what Kristen said. Figure out do what Dominic said. Network, number one, always. Number two, do what Kristen said. Figure out what you want to be doing, what your ideal job is that you've done, because that's the job you're going to get, is the job you've been doing, most likely in the industry that you're in. That's the thing you got to keep in mind. Figure out what those jobs look like in the market. What are the titles? What are people calling these things? And then line up your resumes and your LinkedIn as best you can to meet those job titles and descriptions, because that's what people look at for your standard kind of doers in the companies. If I'm searching for an accountant, I'm going to look at the people whose titles are accountant. I'm not going to look at the weird titles that I don't understand. I won't get there. I'll find 5 people who have titles of accountant before I ever get to the other ones. So you have to use these other tools, right? You got to do the networking, and then you have to figure out where you fit in the market. And then you line up your stuff, your marketing materials, right, to match that. If there are no jobs in the market in what you're going after, then figure something else out. And that's the tricky part, is how do you figure out the other areas? And that's one of the parts of Never Search Alone, candidate market fit. It's good to figure out exactly what you want, but you also have to make sure there's a market for it, right? You have to make sure there's enough jobs out there that fit what you want to be doing or what you have been doing.
Sorry, last thing. Beware of the people that will capitalize on this difficult time in your life. There are exceptional career transition coaches like Shelly, and there are con artists. And a lot of times I've heard candidates paying like $7,000, $10,000 to get a resume. I mean, a good recruiter that, I mean, cares would do that for free. I mean, I wouldn't ask every recruiter to write your resume, but like if you develop a good relationship with somebody, they should do that, or they'll just mass email your resume to things like applications and stuff that ends up in junk and nobody in power ever sees it. Just really do your diligence. If you're going to pay somebody in transition, I suggest that you should, because again, this is an art and a science that we're not taught. Probably the best investment you can make in yourself. But make sure that person knows what the hell they're doing and you understand what they're promising you and that they're delivering on those promises, right? Like if they say, I'm going to introduce you to people, they're writing personal emails to their contacts. They're not mass blasting, right? If they're saying, I'm going to help with your resume, they will do that, right? And make sure that, you're price competing and you just do your due diligence. I think it's sad. There's a lot of people that will take advantage of this time. And somebody on the panel said to me, a lot of recruiting this year was a really difficult time. I've been through some major recessions. This is the weirdest one. It just doesn't follow the norm. It's been a tough year. I haven't seen a recruiter that's like, this is the best year I've ever had. It's just weird. But a lot of those recruiters are now putting transition coaching hats on. I think a lot of them would be actually very skilled and capable, but some of them may not have a formal process. They're doing it because they're not able to generate the recruiting revenue. So just really do your diligence before you spend that kind of money. I'm not saying don't spend it. I would actually do that. I would just spend it on the right resource, an individual like Shelley.
Well, that was unexpected. Thanks, Kristen. I really appreciate that. Elias wrote a post on this earlier this week that there's a lot of scammers out there. Elias, do you have any other thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, look at what their background is, right? Where they came from, how long they were doing it. Again, it doesn't mean somebody who has 2 years in recruiting necessarily is a terrible choice for a career coach, but weigh that out against somebody who's done it for 20 years, right? And how many more opportunities and hiring processes they're going to have seen. So you really have to be very careful about that and really look at where they've been, how long they've been doing it. Have they ever been involved in hiring? I can't tell you how many career coaches I see and resume writers who've never actually been involved in hiring of any kind at any level. They've never been a recruiter. They've never been a hiring manager. They've never done anything that has anything to like. I'm like, where would you even have seen a resume other than your own, right? I don't understand it. But so weigh it out. I mean, some of those people have gotten into resume writing, maybe done it for 10 years. Maybe they're really good at it now. That's fine. They've been doing it a long time. But you have to really, like Kristen said, do your due diligence. Really make sure you see where they came from, where they've been, and ask yourself, why would this person know anything at all about hiring or resumes? And if you can answer that easily by looking at their LinkedIn, you're probably good.
Dom, you look like you have something to say on this. You're on mute, my friend.
I do because Kristen, what you just said is I had an executive reach out to me and said I just spent $8,000 to have my resume updated and my LinkedIn profile. And I go, all they did was threw this into ChatGPT. Here's what it spit out. I showed him. He's like, "You're kidding me." I go, "No." So yeah, you're right. Find the right coach.
Well, and the resume writing piece of it should be 2% of the impact and
Right.
outcome. I mean, that's the easy part.
Right.
It's the how
He
to,
spent 8 grand for it.
what was that?
Yeah, I know. He spent 8 grand for that
That's so
piece.
sad. That makes me so angry. It's like for $8,000, he should have gotten custom introductions to some of his prospective employers. And also you have to build a strategy like you would in business, like you would in your role at the when you're in the seat, right? It's like I'm the product. I have to build a strategy. There's a step to selling a product or service, and you want to follow those same exact steps, right? And the strategy should include more than applications and resume writing. That's
Yeah.
less than 5% of it. And you should be contacting more than recruiters. Really think about if I was the CEO of a business and I needed a really solid hire. Now, again, I'm at more like exec level, right? So these are direct reports to CEOs. The first place they're going to go is their advisors, their network, their vendors, because nobody wants to pay a search fee. Nobody does, right? Unless they really get it and they know like that's the best ROI. They usually are going to try to fill it themselves. And the first place is their trusted advisors. So you need to meet as many trusted advisors of the people that would hire you as you can, and you need to make an impression on those people. And that's the strategy I'd really focus on. How do I get those people to pay attention and respond? How do I get time on their calendar? How do I add value and make them fiercely committed to wanting to help me back?
Thank you, Dom, Kristen, and Elias. So many nuggets there. I can't even thank you for your friendship and all that you do to help candidates throughout. I know Dom has been hiring like crazy. He had 2 offers last week over the 100,000 level. It's a crazy market for us as recruiters. We can't control what's going on, but I really hope sincerely that you heard something today that you're going to take away. We will have contact information on the recording when we send it out. We're going to move into some hot seat coaching now. And my mind is just blown by this past hour and 15 minutes. Dom and Kristen and Elias, you're welcome to stay or you can go. We really didn't talk very much about the like the coaching piece. So I really appreciate your insight on that too. Okay, let's jump into some hot seat coaching. How's everybody out there doing? Is your mind blown by that recruiter panel?